Hello and welcome to our attendees and to our presenters. My name is Paul Schultz, and I am a Faculty Support and Development Associate with the Ashford CETL. And I am your host for today's final 2019 CETL session. And I'm especially excited for this presentation as it gives an opportunity for faculty to learn more about classroom enhancement and some exciting new things in the future. Please allow me to introduce our speakers for today. Cole McFarren is an Ashford University Faculty Support and Development Manager of Classroom Experience. Josh Cohen is the manager of learning technology for Zovio and such an important person in the life of the campus.
Oh, and Paul froze.
In addition, today they are going to be taking a little bit deeper dive to the Ashford University classroom, as well as spend some time reviewing Canvas updates from 2019. In addition to the updates report, they will discuss early findings from the recent classroom satisfaction survey and provide faculty with more information about participating in the Canvas community. And finally, they will preview upcoming enhancements to the classroom, which are exciting, including an updated gradebook and tools to help analyze student engagement and performance. Before they jump into their presentation, some quick housekeeping. When you are in the chat, please select all participants and attendees in the drop-down chat menu so that everyone can see your comments and questions. Feel free to post questions throughout the session, and I will grab those and we will answer all questions at the end of the presentation. And without further ado, I present, I give you Cole and Josh.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Paul. So yeah, Paul always does. I always really love when Paul is my host for anything. He does such a great job. I feel like if he for some reason decides to leave us, he could be, instead of being Mr. Ashford, he could be any game show host or any talk show host. I would listen to him. He does just an amazing job of that among his other talents, obviously. But thank you so much, Paul, for your introduction today. Josh and I have worked together, in a lot of capacities over the years, and honestly, like this meeting today, when we were talking about it and people are posting where they're coming from, we don't really get a good, nationwide holiday party, with our faculty members. So really, we have such a good, turnout this year, and every year, honestly, we should maybe think about like an ugly sweater party, or maybe, something to where we get our remote people together. Cause it's just really a fun, it's such a cool thing to talk about. And this time of year, we're always reflecting on the past year and what's to come. So it's just always a really, really exciting and fun time for all of that. So, to start off today, I kind of wanted to talk just a little bit about, what kind of drives a lot of the changes and improvements that you see in the classroom that take place at any given place in time. And there's a group of people that have met weekly, pretty dedicatedly weekly. We don't always have 100% of the people there, but we always have a good turnout and a good conversation. We never just don't have anything to talk about. There's always lots to talk about. But the Canvas, this is actually going to be basically our fourth-ish year, coming up. We transitioned obviously halfway through the year, but right away we did, the Canvas Phase 2 work group, and then we worked on the Canvas Phase 3, and Josh reminded me the other day that this is going to be Canvas Phase 4, starting in 2020, and this is the group of representatives over the last year So I just want to give a quick shout out and thanks to all of them, for their input and their guidance throughout the last year, in addition to our faculty body, which we'll talk a little bit more about. Josh, do you want to add anything more about like the work group?
Just so everyone's aware, we so this, as Cole said, this work group, we meet weekly, and the idea is that it's a cross-organization work group, and the intention is that we maximize the usage of the LMS to really provide the best classroom experience that we can as an aggregate group and try and improve the experience as much as possible. Participation changes, and obviously with the recent changes to college structure, we're probably going to be adjusting some of the participants to make sure that there's cross organizational representation for all of Ashford. So that'll be something to look forward to in our 2020 work group. But yeah, it's a great group, and the importance is that like the heart is there, and the intention is always students first, faculty first, making sure that we're maximizing the LMS. And I will tell you, I'm the person that sits in front of our external reviewers for program review and shows them the classroom. If there's any full-time faculty on the line, they can definitely reinforce. But they love seeing our classroom, and even for people that know Canvas and know what it can do, they love what we've done more in Canvas, and they're jealous of it, to be honest, which is great because all of our enhancements have been primarily driven by the feedback from our faculty, from feedback from students. It's all very much need based on practice. So just wanted to drop that in there real quick.
Yeah, thanks, Josh. And yeah, we can't emphasize that enough today. How much we appreciate your input, and this is one of those instances where your input really is heard. We really have good channels, for people to hear that, and for us to be able to come together and prioritize that to better the experience for the students and the faculty and everybody with the tools that we have. And that we can find and use and stuff. So it's really really fun work. Today, we do encourage you to please use the chat throughout to chat as much as we can about the things that are going on. We'll try to keep up as much as we can, and I know we have a lot of CETL folks in here facilitating, and hopefully a lot of that will get facilitated. And I know that Paul mentioned we'll kind of keep track of questions and try to pause here and there to chat if there are, to address specific things that come up. But like we said, today at the end of the session, we'll provide a link. If you haven't already, we have a survey out right now that we do yearly about the classroom experience that we really, really appreciate your feedback. And we have almost 200 respondees already. We're hoping to get, a nice handful more to really be able to inform the work that we do on the classroom this coming year.
And I already see a suggestion from Lynn that's going to be addressed in this presentation. So, Lynn, you're going to want to keep your eyes out for Cole's presentation on gradebook items.
Oh, yeah. I was actually looking at that in the chat there. Yes. Yeah. Not to give too much away, but the final grade input process with this gradebook update that's coming up will be much easier. It's our holiday gift since you've all been so good this year. Yeah, there's a lot of cool enhancements coming up. But before we get into that, I did want to just do a little bit of review of 2019. Kind of thinking back on the year and all the things that we've implemented in the classroom. It's kind of surprising to look back that it's only been a year since. The help menu, for instance, was reworked. There were a bunch of, new student resources and channels for support that were added in the help menu there. One of the recent favorites, and I just started another course where this is an action too, and I can't, it's such a simple thing and I love it so much, is the highlight of the instructor name. It's really a big win, both for the student and the faculty side. We were able to implement some new discussion rubrics for when courses undergo revision, using the speed grader, which we've really, you know, in the last few years really come to embrace as a very, very efficient, awesome tool. You know, some of the feedback that we've seen already, you know, very much speaks to that. But there were also some, so the really, really nice thing, and we'll talk a little bit more about this too, is that Canvas drives a lot of changes and improvements constantly. They're continually adding things. We're adding, you know, from the Zovio and the AU side, you know, as much as we can to improve from both channels. And Canvas added a lot of accessibility changes this year to make the navigation on the left side a lot more accessible. And I think the accessibility checker was either, it might have been the year before, but they've made a lot of changes, you know, previously to make sure that they're as accessible as possible. And then one that, you know, came up earlier this year, which was a huge win and a long time in the making and in progress, was returning written assignment feedback with one click to the gradebook, as it had been previously. We were able to integrate that waypoint feedback, the rubric, the summarized comment, and a link to the marked up document right there in the Canvas gradebook. So those were a lot. We had a lot of wins for 2019 already, and we've got a couple exciting ones coming up. So I feel great about the progress we made this year, and I'm very, very optimistic about the future. Anything, Josh, that you can think that I missed? Or?
Yeah, I'm just seeing a lot of chat, and I just want to say, hold your horses, because we have some great things coming in this presentation, because you're going to be loving us by the end of this, I hope. But also, you know, 2019 enhancements, they take time, and we always are careful when it comes to implementing new things. So sometimes there's an easy fix and we can roll it out right away, but discussion boards highlighting yellow, we knew day one in Canvas that was something that we wanted to do. And there wasn't an easy answer to begin with, but then we got a partial answer, and it would work in some browsers but not others. And then we found that we could get it to work, but it would also highlight students who had dropped from the class and were no longer in a student status. So it's a progressive iteration until we get that final product that you get. So sometimes it takes a little time, but the wait is worth it because, you know, when we can deliver that item that makes such a difference in the classroom, and it's not gonna, you know, bite us essentially from some little flaw that we didn't test out, it's a really great feeling. So yeah, some great things, and they were a long time coming. The Waypoint one click, the instructor highlighting, all of those took some time, but really happy with the team efforts that came to make those happen this year.
Definitely, and you know, to just hit on that again, you know, a lot of that we were able to keep, you know, at the top of our at the front of our radar because of, you know, the faculty feedback that we had received. You know, we knew that name highlight was important. We knew that Waypoint one click feedback was important, and we kept working at it. So that was, you know, we are able to really use that feedback to inform this work. So. Just a super quick preview of some of the things that we're gonna talk about and do some live previewing of today. Portfolium, there's some really cool stuff happening with Portfolium for all of Ashford students, which Josh is gonna talk about. Pretty exciting stuff. The updated gradebook, after we come back from break, actually I think December 30th is the go live date, where we'll have an updated gradebook. You might have seen some banners, you know, to date from Canvas about it. And they pointed to some resources which were pretty good and walked through, you know, some things, but we're gonna take you through specifically what the AU, you know, experience will look like with the gradebook. Context cards are something that come along with that package that are really cool, that give some nice analytics pieces on students that we can drill into specifically. There will be, I think I saw in the chat earlier, a shortcut for Waypoint on the left nav, which is actually awesome. I have it live in my class now just to test it out. It's pretty cool. So, and then we'll also talk just a little bit about some things to come in 2020, including Canvas Analytics and some things about Inspire for Faculty and how those all, you know, kind of fit into the faculty and student engagement experience. All right,
so Portfolium, many of you may have had a Portfolium integration in your classroom. Portfolium is available to all of our students. Essentially, it's going to aggregate student work, and it's something that they'll have access to beyond their experience with the university. So they can build out essentially a packet of work that would be a good representation to a potential employer and is representative of their skills. So this is a great tool. When used correctly, it creates great visibility for the student and what they've experienced, what skills they've built out, and just the body of work in general. And this is not just for students. Faculty have accounts too. So if you want to use your Portfolium and build out your profile, that's great. Go for it. We want everyone to use Portfolium. Canvas acquired Portfolium this past year. So as a part of that, we were a previous user and had an account with them. And so it's going to have a more pervasive partnership essentially with the classroom. What that means is currently we have it in the left navigation in those courses that specifically have it integrated with curriculum. In Q1, everyone's going to have it under the account settings area. So the same place that you'd change your image for your profile, there's going to be a Portfolium area there, and you'll be able to cross over into Portfolium directly. We will still have Portfolium integrated into courses, but this gives us a greater opportunity for anyone to use it at any time, as well as that continued integration into the classroom where it's appropriate. So, and I say where it's appropriate because not everything belongs in Portfolium. Portfolium really is for refined finished products, so oftentimes where it's aligned to classroom activities, it's usually on a final draft of an item where it will be placed into Portfolium as well, and that's part of the process for the student. The great thing about Portfolium is it's not just I'm uploading a paper to this thing to be looked at, but also there's like skills that can be attached to each of the things. So you can say, okay, this paper allowed me to demonstrate these skills, and the student can tag that as part of their Portfolium usage. So it really can build out so that if someone's searching through Cole's Portfolium, they can say, oh, Cole has a public speaking skill. Here's a video of him presenting at a CETL session. And it's not just for documents. So it can be for video. There are integrations with GitHub if you are a technology person and it's from a coding course. So there's a lot of options to share presentations and audio and the like. So we're going to see more of that in the classroom in 2020, and we look forward to seeing everyone's Portfolium and what faculty can do with their Portfolium too. I know that it's not always been a focus for faculty options, but I think a great way for our students to understand how valuable it can be is to see how their instructors can use it.
Hey, Josh, real quick, could you explain what Portfolium actually is?
Yeah, it's an online portfolio. It's a repository of the best of your work, essentially, or ideally that's what it would be. Sometimes, students will probably not put their best work in there or just put something in there. But the idea is that I can take that portfolio. If I were a student, I could go to an employer and provide them a URL in an online application, and they could go and take a look at it and say, oh, okay, I can see that Josh has demonstrated these skills, whether it's the ability to create a PowerPoint presentation, public speaking, the ability to write an email or a brief on a summary of a business case or something like that. They'd be able to see those skills demonstrated in a very tangible way. And that could potentially, as a student, help me garner employment past this or be used for graduate school applications or the like. All right. Cool. Did I miss anything?
No, I think that that's a great overview of Portfolium, and a thing that I, have on my, as one of my New Year's resolutions is number one, to get a little bit more in tune with Portfolium, how faculty and students, can specifically, encourage that, since it's going to be so widespread. And yeah, that fact that, I remember, hearing that news and reading about how that membership is like a lifelong thing. Once a student graduates, they take it with them, and they don't have to pay for it. It's a thing that carries with them. Is really, really cool. And the fact that faculty can use it as well. We'll definitely have some professional development opportunities, in the next year to explain that more. I think there were a couple of good CETL sessions or TLC sessions actually about it, if I remember right. We had some folks from Portfolium come and talk, which was really really neat. But we'll definitely have more, absolutely, as we continue with that. And there's a lot of stuff in the chat, which I'm really, really happy to see, because it's and we'll talk a little bit more about. I think that honestly, I see so much going on that I think we can kind of export the chat and kind of add it to the LMS survey feedback that we already have, because there's a lot of good stuff in there, and there's a lot of good stuff that's been put through that channel as well. But if you want to learn anything about Portfolium now, there are definitely resources out there to get ahead of the game if you want to. But we'll have more about Portfolium very soon.
And don't think that you have to remember when it's going to come out. We'll post an announcement, or you'll get an email to make sure that it's in there, and you can go ahead and click and get your Portfolium up.
Absolutely. So we wanted to do so like I had said, over the break on December 30th, we're going to roll out the new gradebook to all of our courses. And we kind of had the opportunity to kind of pace that out as we wanted to. Josh and I and the committee have kind of worked through that and kind of figured out when we wanted to do it. This seemed like the time that made the most sense. It came out a while ago, and they were able to work out a lot of early issues and things like that. So we adopted it, I think, at a very smart time. And over break seems like a good time. But long and short of it, there's going to be a lot of benefits to come along with this gradebook update that'll be coming out. It'll look a little bit different for sure. But once folks get used to it, there's a lot of good things that come along with it. So
I just want to clarify right from the start, this update is impacting the instructor faculty view. This is not going to impact the student view at all. And you can still see the individualized student view by clicking on the individual student name. So a lot of times when changes come around, the student impact is often the most disruptive. So this one has no impact on the student. This is only ideally to improve your life as a faculty member and how you operate within the gradebook for the course level view of it.
Yes, thank you, Josh, for clarifying that early, because that is definitely a big, early question that makes a lot of sense as far as impact goes. And all the changes that we have seen, and we've toyed around with it, and my team, of classroom support people have toyed around with it, and all of the changes we see are good. So, we're really excited to be able to give you a live walkthrough tonight of what that's going to look like. We'll also have later on this week, my team has been hard at work making a few videos of different aspects of this. There will be another video that will be released after this that's a shorter version of a gradebook walkthrough. One that goes through entering final grades, because it'll look just a little bit different, but way more efficient. And then there will also be one about context cards, which is kind of a cool concept that we'll talk about here in just a little bit. So first off, this is kind of what the new gradebook looks like. Normally, in a normal classroom, there wouldn't be all of these colored sections, because there would be on-time assignments, things like that. But the first thing you'll notice is we'll just kind of walk through it from left to right, up to down. This gradebook tab gives a couple different options here. The individual view we've always had isn't as applicable to how our faculty use the gradebook necessarily. And then gradebook history, which is useful more so for institutions that use Canvas that have almost like multiple instructors or things like that. It's useful on the administrative side, but not necessarily on the faculty side, directly in a classroom. So not a lot of big changes there, just a couple different ways to access that. Some of the cool stuff that we start to get into here, if we go into view, this gradebook update really gives the user a lot more ability to customize the gradebook to how they want to view it, which is awesome, which is a lot of the feedback that we've received actually throughout the years after we've moved over to the Canvas gradebook. So we can arrange our assignments by alphabetical order. The default order is typically chronological, just because that's the way that our classrooms have been structured. That might be just a little bit off here and there, but that should be the, we can also go from due date, oldest to newest, which is obviously chronological. And then we can sort by module as well. One of the coolest things that I think, that comes along with this in this view is we can add filters. So we have this little filter tab, and when a check mark is there, we basically have the filter there, and when it's gone, we lose it. So we can add the assignment group filter, and we can add the module filter. And these filters up top help us do exactly what a filter does. So we can go ahead and just isolate different assignment groups. So we can look at just discussions, we can look at just final grades, which is how we'll do final grades, which is great. We can look at just written assignments, things like that. We can also go, say you're in week 4 and you want to look at just week 4 assignments. You can just go to week 4, which, is another piece that we've seen in faculty feedback. We've always just kind of had this big, since moving over Canvas gradebook that goes, about 100 yards wide that you kind of have to scroll over for. Now we can really isolate the week that you're in if you want to, which is terrific. And if you have a larger class, you can also search by student name, which is nice. So if I want to look at how Cole is doing, I can see his grades here. Better for, larger classes for sure, but definitely useful as well. So those filters, I think, in my opinion, are some of the biggest wins right out the box with this update that's coming out. I want to make sure. Okay, so like I said, there's a couple, even going just a little bit more in depth, you can actually, if you want to change the way that the statuses show up, maybe if you want to change the color for missing assignments or late assignments, or assignments that were resubmitted, you can do that. There's kind of some cool, just like little tweaks that you can do if you really, really want to, get in under the hood with that, which are kind of neat. A couple of other things that were there already. I mean, we have the notes section, which is really cool. If folks aren't using that now, it already exists in the gradebook as we have it now. But you can turn the notes on and off, and you can leave a note there that a student can't see. If you want to make a note that a student has accommodations that you're working with or something like that, you can put it right there in the notes, and it's not public to anyone. It's just a personal note for you. So you can change that view as well if you'd like to. The unpublished assignment's not necessarily as applicable to our instance, since that's pretty much regulated on an administrative level. So when we go to actions, we can see import, which isn't as applicable to us, but we can also export still. That capability existed before, but if you say for example you keep a spreadsheet of when you respond to students like I do, that's a nice way to just grab a quick spreadsheet of your students to where you can keep whatever notes you want on a personal level. So that's just some of the stuff that's added right there on the gradebook, at the front there. And I want to just show you just really quick how excited I was the first time I walked through inputting final grades through the new system. So everybody knows what inputting final grades, everybody has their own tricks to do it, or, the way that it happens. But the way that this is going to work with our system now after the gradebook update, like we could before, we can go over to the total, and then we can move it to the front. And that moves that percentage to the front. If there were more completed grades, there would be more, obviously. But then we can use that filter to put the final grades right up there. So we can have that final grade section right up by the total instead of having, I can even take the notes out of there, to where the final grade moves right up by there. So within like just a couple clicks, we're able to get that final grade and the total column. Much like it exists now, faculty will still have a total column that gives the up-to-date grade, and then they will still have to enter the final grade. But we can bring it over there within just a couple clicks, and it's right next door. So that's a really, really improved process for that. One of the other things that comes along with this update is what's called a context card. And, we'll talk a little bit more about Inspire for Faculty, later on, just touch on it briefly. But the context card is essentially a little bit more of, like we were talking about earlier, kind of an under the hood look at some of the information that Canvas keeps on a student that we can use to enhance the student and faculty engagement experience. So for example, I pulled up Charlene. So basically when you're in the gradebook, you can click on a student's name, and what will happen is their context card will pull up. So we can see here with Charlene that, we can actually see her last login time. It's been a while since she logged into class. Maybe I want to send her a message about that. And we can actually send a message right there from the envelope icon there, which is really, really nice. We can have a shortcut to her individual grades, which will give a breakdown of all the assignments that she has that are going toward her grades. If you have a message from her and you're talking to her. There's a shortcut to the analytics, which is good now. There's some useful stuff there, but we'll get into some really promising things that Canvas has coming up, and we'll look at hopefully coming to us in Q1 2020. And then it gives a nice quick overview of just her grade. The one thing to watch out for with the missing and late assignments is the fact that our Waypoint assignments and the way those work with the Canvas gradebook will potentially throw that off a little bit. It might look like if a student, for example, has submitted an assignment and it hasn't been graded yet, it might show up as missing when it's not. And then we also know that the Waypoint assignments, when they return to the gradebook, show up as late. So those would probably also be just a little bit off for this first phase of the context cards being rolled out. So that's something to watch out for. But otherwise, everything else is pretty much on key. It'll show just a summary of the last few graded items, I think up to 10 or maybe more. But it gives a nice little graph of that. And then it gives a nice little breakdown of what that student's participation and page views are in comparison to other students in the classroom, which is really kind of nice. If you are going to send a message to Charlene, say, hey, I just noticed you really haven't been able to, you've been viewing a lot of pages, but maybe you're not participating as much. What can I do to help clarify or what, whatnot. So even just this little bitty dashboard that comes with this context card, is a step in a really great and I think the right direction, for our faculty. And along the lines of, Civitas and a very much a supplemental tool to that. We'll talk a little bit more about how those can go hand in hand here in just a little bit. So, I think the last thing that I did just want to highlight super quick that we heard that faculty were so good this year, and we talked to somebody in the North Pole, but we honestly, thanks to our teams, I know that Justice and Josh were both huge parts, and their teams were instrumental in making this happen. But from the feedback that we've gotten from faculty, we've really wanted a shortcut to Waypoint here in the left navigation of the course, and I have my course pulled up here. I've been using it for the last week and a half or so since Justice turned it on in my course, and it's already saved me, at least 20 clicks and maybe 30. Maybe that doesn't sound, big to a lot of people, but those that, really, the efficiency of the click and the scroll is, means a lot. Or, for example, I found it to be really useful when I would take a break from grading and I would come back and my Waypoint session would be expired. I'd have to go back to the other page and reload it, and then I'd have to scroll all the way back down and click it. Now there's going to be, for faculty specifically, a Waypoint shortcut right there on the left navigation. It'll be at the very bottom. Actually, we might be able to move that around depending. That's not set in stone, I don't think, but there'll be a Waypoint shortcut right there that'll bring you right to the Waypoint of your course. And it was a very specific choice to do that because we made it very specific to just faculty. We did not want students to be able to go to submit an assignment without being able to review the instructions. So that was a very specific choice that we decided. But yeah, that's going to be a really big win for faculty. I've already noticed just in the last week it's been huge. So anything that you can think of that I'm missing out here, Josh?
No, I just want to reiterate, this will only be for the faculty view. So if you say, just click Waypoint on the left navigation to your students, they're not going to know what you're talking about. They're going to say you're crazy. But as Cole mentioned, it is because we want students to use the assignment-based ones because when they cross over, it's going to place them in the right bucket for submitting that particular week's assignment. And if they were to go through a generic link like this, they would have to choose that bucket from the dropdown. As we all know, that one step could add confusion to the student participation, and you could get items submitted for week 1 and week 5, or vice versa, and we just don't want that headache for the students. So this is just for you as faculty. It's going to show up at the bottom for now. And I say for now because the way we can get it out in every classroom starting 12:30 and beyond is for it to show up at the bottom. After that, as we revise classes, we'll start to move it up beyond those items with the crossed out I that indicates that it's only visible to you as a faculty member. But that's okay. It's pretty easy. It's right there at the bottom, so you'll know consistently where to go. Yeah, looking forward to you guys having that access. This was another one of those things. We knew it was a wanted item. We wanted to do it right. Especially with the addition of one-click this past year, we wanted to make sure that adding that item and the way things work is we have two systems talking to each other. We have Canvas talking to Waypoint, and then Waypoint has to talk back. So when we add a new connection like that, we have to make sure that when you cross over in that Waypoint location, it still connects in the same way for your classroom so that the grades that are passing back and forth still pass back and forth. So we have to do a lot of extra testing, and I know this is lots of semantics and technical, but I want you to know it's our every intention to make the classroom better. We just do it the right way.
Absolutely. I'm seeing so much activity in the chat. I don't even know if we can.
Yeah. And we don't have too much on this, so I'm glad we have a lot of time for questions because you guys have some great questions.
Yeah. So the context card that we talked about, is a great, introduction to the Canvas Analytics beta feature. So it was actually June of last year. Josh, Justice Madden, and myself were able to attend the Canvas conference, where they, which was actually an amazing conference. They had a really, leaders from throughout the industry, both the tech and the education side. It was a fantastic conference. But one of the things that they rolled out there, or really made a big premiere, about, was the Canvas Analytics beta feature. Which, so the way that I like to think about it in my mind is I think about, so envision Civitas Inspired for Faculty, which is a really, really great tool. And it gives us a nice overview. It gives us a dashboard to see, at a glance. It gives us a heat map, of where students lie based on all these determining factors. Canvas Analytics Beta gives us just a little bit more customization and kind of a peek behind the curtain of what goes into something like that in some ways. If you really want to dive into engagement factors and make your, make your own judgments in some ways, and take the time to do that as a faculty member, I think that this Canvas Analytics Beta is going to be a tool that we're going to be rolling out. It's forecasted for Q1 of 2020 for us. But it gives us some really, really cool information. So for example, we can see on the left side, we can see grades, which is fine. We can see on-time assignments, which is fine. We can also see dates of last participation or dates of last page view. So this is a really easy way to see, students that haven't logged in recently, or, if somebody hasn't been in for a few days, and are falling a little bit behind. It's easier to isolate those students and then, reach out to them and make your own decisions. And then it gives also a lot of information and data and tables and the ability for a user to, like on the right, for example, look at the page views and participation, kind of like what we saw in the context card, but a little bit more in depth about how many page views a student has, how much they've been in the classroom, how much they're actually participating. So I think that in partnership with Inspire for Faculty is going to really, really be able to inform faculty on the student engagement experience here in 2020, which I'm really, really excited about. And we'll definitely have, you know, professional development opportunities around those and trainings, you know, as those come. So, touching just briefly on Civitas Inspired for Faculty, it's been a really, really, you know, great ride since rolling that out. I mean, it's been over almost, well, about a year and a half, I think, since we rolled it out. And we have over 500,000 interventions sent, which really still, every time I look and see how many faculty are sending interventions and how many we've sent, it blows my mind. So it's, you know, thank you for those of you that have used the tool. It's a great efficiency tool for reaching out to students that need just a little bit extra help, and for recognizing students that are doing awesome, and also connecting students with resources that they, you know, can really use. And I want to talk. I won't stand on my soapbox for too long about this, but you know, look for in 2020 some professional development opportunities around, you know, this type of technology that we can use as a tool, and also just being able to be a proactive faculty member. We have a lot of tools at our disposal right now, and we're able to make very, very informed decisions about who we're reaching out to, you know, and you know, looking more at research about, you know, when referring students to resources does make a difference, you know, or the way that we're reaching out to students, you know, and the way that we're talking to them makes a difference. So we're going to have some professional development opportunities around Civitas Inspired for Faculty and Canvas Analytics, but also about the bigger picture of just how to be, you know, that coach. We're not just instructors, we're coaches. We're, you know, as much as we, you know, don't want to blur those lines sometimes, that's the role that we play, and playing it online, as we all know, is an art and a science. So we're going to talk a lot more about, you know, sharing best practices and hearing what you're doing that works, and sharing that. So I'll get off my soapbox. That's all I'll say about that necessarily for now. We did recommit back in maybe a couple months ago, at least, to go through August of 2020 with Civitas Inspired for Faculty. So do expect it, you know, to be continuing in your classrooms until then, at least. We have in the couple last weeks, actually, unfortunately, since I have, you know, so many active members here with us, the last couple of weeks has been kind of a sync issue to where it's not reflecting current data. So we're working on that, and hopefully by the time we get back from break, for sure, it will be back up and firing away like it does. So before we get, you know, and before I want to open Pandora's box, I guess, you know, with as active of a chat this is, you know, we wanted to just kind of open it up about, you know, like what enhancements, you know, and features people would like to see in the future. But man, I think if we dive into the chat, we could, maybe it would be a good time to just kind of go back through some of the chat stuff. Josh, have there been some trends that you've been able to see that you can maybe talk about quick?
Probably.
Nicole and Josh, I emailed you both.
All right. So I've seen some questions about Turnitin with Waypoint. I can tell everyone that we are actively working on improving the Turnitin connection to Waypoint. There's a team of developers actually working on it now. So the connection between Turnitin and Waypoint, that was sort of one of the first connections between third-party tools with Turnitin. So there's now a newer version of it, so they're in the process of doing that upgrade, which will hopefully cut down the report submission times that we're seeing. In addition, because we have this team of people working on it, there have been some great suggestions as to how we can potentially run, let's say, all of your student submissions at once, or have them pre-run, depending on the assignment. And I say depending on the assignment because, as we all know, if you ran every single rough draft and then every single final draft, you'd have a lot of, you know, things bouncing off of each other and very high scores. So there's an appropriate way for implementation of some of this, but it's being worked on. It's not something that we're content to be passive about. So I will let you know that. Let's see what else we got in these.
Do you want me to name off questions, Josh? I can do that for you.
Yeah. If you have some that you pulled out that you thought would be really great, go for it, Paul.
Is there a easy way in? Well, we already answered that.
Okay.
I often have Waypoint log me out while I'm grading. I'm finding this happening more and more. Is there a reason why?
So basically the systems are talking to each other, right? So if there's a disruption to that talk, let's say your internet decides to hang up the line, it's sort of going to log you out. And that's just a let's make sure that the lines are connected properly scenario, so you don't accidentally get, let's say, someone else is grading in the wrong space. You know, hopefully that link on the left nav directly to Waypoint will save some of that and help get you back into Waypoint as quickly as possible. But it is sort of a system safety scenario. So yeah, I understand there's the frustration around the logout. Obviously, internet connection is a big part of the classroom connection. So being in a space where you have a dedicated connection is great. But it does happen, and there are also timeouts based on amount of time. So it will probably time out at an hour or something around that, because we don't want accidentally someone leaving something up. And you know, sometimes a child, or if you're working in a public space, someone could accidentally access something. So the timeouts are also a safety there. Yeah.
All right. Can the discussion forum layout change from nested to thread view? It helps for review of the posts.
I'm not understanding the difference. Right now we do have a nested view where everything is sub the initial post. So you'll see a little indentation to show that it's rolling up. And there are specific discussions that may not have that turned on, but it should pretty much be turned on anywhere. So if it's supposed to be sort of that layout where everything rolls up into the upper one, and it's not, please fill out a CFF so that it can be adjusted, because you're absolutely right. If you just saw everything in order without indicating where the response occurs to, that would be very disruptive and frustrating, which is why we made that addition to have the little ledges essentially on each subsequent item, because Canvas without some of that update is very hard to read in the discussion forums.
Is there a way to apply Turnitin to all students at once rather than each one separately?
Fingers crossed, one day soon.
Very good.
Yeah.
Is there any way to highlight or use different colored font in the Gradebook or grade feedback section?
So those sections do not allow for different colored fonts, and partially because that is an accessibility issue. So font color changes should not be used, and this goes for announcements as well, and please feel free to use the accessibility checker to help navigate this. It's very helpful in making sure that we have an appropriate understanding. But font color change should not be used without either a bold or an italicized or an underline, something additional to indicate more than just the color change, because some of our students may be colorblind, may have red-green sensitivity. So your change of just color may mean nothing to that student. So it's important that we pair it with something else.
Very good. What would it ever be possible that when we are grading in SpeedGrader, we could also see our response to their initial post?
So I feel like this might actually be a good time to kind of transition to the conversation that Josh and I really wanted to bring up today.
So we have thousands of great ideas from our faculty members, and a lot of them are filtering up to us directly through the surveys. And please make sure to fill out the surveys. It is very important for us, and we aggregate those, and if it's something doable within our realm of expertise or within our control, we're going to do our best to make it happen. And of course, we have the hoops to jump through to get approvals from your deans and the like to see the impact of the process. That being said, there are some things that are just like outside of our realm of control. But there are a lot of Canvas users, and Instructure is very good about, there's a whole community out there of other Canvas users. Those individuals using Canvas, just like you are, have a ton of ideas, just like you, and this community allows you to share those ideas, but not just share them. So after ideas get a certain level of renown, let's say, you can vote on those ideas. They get looked at by Canvas engineering teams. And if they're a valuable idea, they can even be implemented. So if you have an idea and you want it, you think it should be out there, and you don't know that it's something that we can do internally, go to the community, search the community, see if the idea is already there. If it's there, upvote it. The more upvotes that it's going to have, it's more likely to be looked at by engineering. And I think there's a threshold. It's probably around like 300 people, which is not that much when you think of our aggregate power as a faculty body. So go ahead and go to the community, look for the idea, upvote it if it's there. If it's not there, put your idea in there, and then tell your fellow faculty, tell your FSDA, tell other people in the community, because this is a social area, about it, and so that they'll go and upvote your idea too. And hopefully, then we can get some additional things through that would be very valuable, like potentially showing responses to the threads that are in the gradebook. Because you're absolutely right. It's great to see the students' post, but the context of the post, or at least a summarized context of the post, the post before and after, or the instructor responses to those posts, would be great to allow a little bit more context. Was this post, led by you based on what you posted in response to them, or did they do it organically? Was the student responding to another student that led that response to occur? All these factors that would definitely come into how you're evaluating and grading. Absolutely, that's a great idea.
Yeah, and even as an administrator, for sure it's been very, very helpful, because honestly, Canvas has a really, really thorough and innovative community to where they are able to take that feedback and you can upvote on it. I can go in and search for a certain item. I'm having issues with blah blah blah, and there's other people that are posting about it that have issues at another university. Obviously, my team and your faculty, support and development folks are kind of your support people there. But it's been very, very useful for me. And when it comes to, if you are the type of person who has lots of ideas about it, which I see there are lots of us here today, this is a great resource, and it's really a very unique, user experience and customer experience, honestly, that I've seen with.
So another quick question.
Oh, Paul.
Sorry.
Paul, you seem to freeze, but
I see something from Elizabeth that about the Civitas Inspire for Faculty refresh, which we can. That is actually one that would go to us as opposed to like a Canvas community type thing. So the long and the short of it is, right now there are a lot of ways that obviously Civitas Inspire for Faculty has to connect to our learning management system and our student records. And then feed into its system, which is partially why there's a little bit of a refresh between the two. There's currently something between them that is not syncing, and we have been trying from both sides to figure out exactly where that has gone awry. We're working on it from both sides, and that's why I'm hoping. I am also a little bit disappointed that it's since I think it was 12.1 was the last update, but we're hoping to have that back up and running, because we do have a lot of faculty I know that use that tool. that I absolutely encourage and endorse. So we're hoping to have that back up and running soon. We'll try to get a note out to faculty when it is. So the other thing, so I did want to just say, I think we did address some questions, and we'll try to address a few more if we can before we head out. But if you haven't already, please do complete that survey. I have the link right here. I'm going to copy and paste it into the chat. If you haven't taken it, we're going to take this chat actually and compile it into the survey results, because I don't know that I've ever seen a more lively chat with more ideas. But this is exactly how we take this type of feedback. We take this and just kind of categorize it, like, okay, here's one about Waypoint. And, for example, people were saying, what about, this or that about Waypoint, for example. The more specific that people can be about the feedback that they have, the more we're able to take action on it. And we've already gotten, I've previewed, some of the feedback that we've seen, and it's all very, very helpful, what we've seen so far to really be specific about what can improve the faculty experience and the student experience in the long run. So much of the work that we did in 2019 was informed by your feedback, and we just really, really encourage you to do that as well this year if you haven't already. Let me see if I can grab those Portfolium links as well super quick. Because I think that really does take us to, I will credit Morgan Johnson with the final slide for the night, because she likened our yearly Canvas presentations to the Oprah Holiday Special. It doesn't always feel like that, but I mean, it does, like, looking back at all the things we did. But this year, like at the holiday, we get, it's like we checked under our seat. And we get a new grade book. Entering final grades is going to be awesome. We get new context cards. And then that Waypoint Shortcut, for me is the cherry on top. So I do have to credit Morgan Johnson with, that, that image. But that's how I feel, at the end of this year. And I'm also super thankful for all of you and the feedback that you provide to help keep this moving forward. Yeah.
All right.
Okay. I can answer a couple more questions if we have the time, but if anyone needs to bounce, please feel free to, and have a wonderful evening. So I'm going to speed read through these, so please bear with me. So Portfolium, will students have help in developing and maintaining their portfoliums? Portfolium work is done in conjunction with the career services team. So anytime it's built into the classroom, they've also had input on it, and they've also are working to make sure that Portfolium, they can help assist in those as well. So you might see a lot of assignments that have resumes or cover letters as a part of the Portfolium as well, because they, obviously, if it's employer-facing, this is a very important part of Portfolium. What does test student mean in my class? Okay, the test student shows on the gradebook at the bottom of the gradebook. If anyone has clicked the student view button on the front page of the course, what that's doing is it's creating a fake student in the gradebook for you to fake grade to see how that would be perceived by the student. You don't have to do anything with this test student. You can not grade it, not do anything with it. But it will show up as soon as that student view button is clicked. And it may not be you that clicked the student view button. It could be an admin like myself or my team that's troubleshooting something that used the student view button. But you're welcome to ignore the test student at the bottom of the gradebook that results as a result of the student view button. Let's see. I have a number of students who go by a nickname that differs from their stated name in the course. If I had a wish list, it would be nice if they could modify their names. Absolutely. There are definitely students with preferred names in the classroom. We are currently working, there's a new student information system being built out within the organization, and one of the requests is that preferred names be a part of it and those translate into the classroom. Currently, there is a process that a student with a specific preferred name can go to student records and have that adjusted. In the meantime, as a faculty member, I would suggest the notes column in the gradebook is a great way to log the preferred student's name in the classroom so that you have it close by at all times. Does module mean week, or does it mean actual modules for the course that are modules such as orientation? Module, if you look on the modules page, they are broken down by week. So when you're using the filter on the new gradebook, the modules will indicate the individual weeks. Let's see, how about something that tells us at a glance if we missed a grade? So you'll see a dash if something is ungraded and there was no submission, and if there was a submission and no grade, you'll see a little icon. Usually it's like a rocket ship or a little paper or something like that.
With the way
except in the case of Waypoint, where the submissions would occur in Waypoint and those items would be in your Dropbox.
And with the way that update, I think, will work is, if there is something missing, you can actually probably flag it, as a different color or something like that, I think, if you go into that menu, I think, so.
Will the student ever be able to see the notes? No. The notes are just for you as a faculty member. And I believe the notes don't even translate to visibility by the admins. It's only in your view. I have not seen anyone's notes that they put in their course. Would this be, let's see. Will the titles of the icon buttons for links in the gray vertical bar in the far left of the course still be there, or will they be eliminated? So I believe you're talking about the global navigation items, which do occur on the far left of the course. And sometimes those disappear because at the very bottom of your page, there's a little arrow and an item that will condense it. But if you click that arrow, it will pop it back out and give the full title underneath of it. Let's see. I think that was me getting through Paul's paper. Yeah. Speed question answering. All right.
Yeah, I was glancing through the chat too. I think that addressed a lot of it, but otherwise we will, like I said, take those and add those to the LMS survey data that we have. So
I think we've reached our time. So
awesome.
Wanted to thank you all for attending today's presentation, and a special thank you to Cole and Josh. This presentation will be posted in the professional development section of the CETL for future reference. And with that, enjoy your holiday with family and friends. This concludes our presentation today.